We're going to call the
I
meeting
think
to order.
it's probably a good option. He seems very
Mike, you ready?
interested.
Ready, Mike?
All set.
All right. We're going to open the meeting with pledge allegiance, a moment of silence. Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Take a moment of silence to reflect on our duties here as members of the town council. Remember our first responding public safety officers and soldiers here and abroad. Thank you. I'm going to announce that we're recording the meeting in accordance with Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 20. Is anyone else reporting the meeting? All right. That was easy enough. Public comments. Tom, we have public comments.
We did have someone who had signed up, but he couldn't make it tonight. We don't have anybody.
Okay. Council response? Obviously, we have none, but council comments. Anybody have any?
No, just one update.
Excuse me.
I had told the council that myself and the town attorney were going to meet and discuss that issue of funding. We went through a variety of stuff, the Charter of Mass General Law. I think we both have a pretty good handle on it, and we are in the midst now of writing to bring back to the full council some guidance that maybe we might want to make as part of our rules, so that it's quick reference and easy for us to guide ourselves through, because it gets a little complex when you get into the Mass General laws that now govern our activity. So,
Thanks.
yep.
Town manager report.
Already? My goodness. You guys are fast. Good evening, everyone. The police and fire chiefs and I participated in a regional emergency communications center planning committee. That's a mouthful. That's investigating the best ways to address the possibility for regionalization of the police and fire dispatching services. The other participating towns are Hamden, Longmeadow, Wilbraham, Ludlow, and Southwick. It's pretty complex planning, and it's complex because everybody's got different radio systems. Some are older, some are newer. They want to go to something, they have to go to something uniform. And I think it'll be a little while before this dance is over of what exactly they're going to do. As a follow-up to our last discussion regarding a Hamden Golf Course related project, possibly needing connection to either East Longmeadow, sewer, or water, I attended the last Hamden Planning Board meeting as they were discussing another project related to the golf course. I was able to meet briefly with the owners of the property and shared the council's concerns with them. I have since been contacted by the project manager and the attorney for the project about bringing East Longmeadow up to date on what's being planned with this project. I'll update you further as soon as I have more information. They understood our concern, your concern, and I was very clear that sooner rather than later is better to bring us into the process. So they understood that.
So there is I guess that was the first thing we were looking to get answered. There is some.
Yeah, and it might be quite a bit, and they didn't know anything about capacity, and they said they're just doing test borings at this point. And I said, test borings for what? If you're doing test borings, there must be a plan. And they said, well, that's our engineering. I said, well, somebody needs to let us know, because, you know, this isn't the way to start a relationship with them. And it happens that I know the family that owns the golf course, which I thought I did. And so I certainly have a good relationship with them, and I think we've got their attention, if nothing else. So I will update you. I have a meeting, I think it's the 21st, with the attorney, and I don't remember another day for the project manager. So they're concerned about our relationship with them. A student, his name is Patrick Varhu, I think, and Don Varhu, may be contacting some of you about interviews. He's going to be starting a show on town politics, so he's, I guess, doing this himself, and that'll be interesting. Due to a number of complaints about trash service, I met with representatives from Republic about the service being provided to our residents. They explained that they had recently changed providers for their service calls, and certainly we know how, things change, and then the numbers aren't the same, and they don't know the streets, and they don't know the whole routine. So it was glitches. Republic took our tracking sheet. I started a tracking sheet for any complaints so that it wasn't, well, we got 3 last week. No, they knew exactly what street they were. They knew who it was, what the issue was. And I said, and I'd like to know the status when it's resolved. And all of those have been resolved at this point. They said truly it was just glitches with changing over to a different service provider, and that they gave us a clear list of who all of the contacts are. So haven't had one call since, and we were getting, I know it's not a lot, but 3 or 4 a week. I was used to not having any, except in the winter when people have their barrels and they get smashed by a plow or that kind of thing. But really, there was never issues with the service. So they've been notified that they need to step it up, and they seem very sincere about that. The planner and I have an appointment Monday to meet with Hannah Butler of Lennox American Saw. I think I told you a little bit about that last meeting, for a tour and discussion regarding their change in ownership and any impact it will have on our community. I've spoken with Chief DeLessio regarding the shooting incident involving East Long Meadow officers last weekend. Attached to your electronic copy, and the written copy, is the press release that went out. It has not received a lot of attention, and rightfully so. It appears to have been a justified incident, and the chief is working with the state police and the district attorney's office to conclude the process for confirming that. Abatement of the meeting room space at Town Hall has been completed. It took 2 days. Painful days. I couldn't even use my phone because I couldn't hear. But with progress is pain for sure. And now the build out of the new office space is going to begin Monday, November 14th, and it will be their first mission is to get the one new office built, so that then they can take the office that I'm in now, split that in half. That will be a conference room and room for either benefits or HR. And there'll then be reconfiguration not only of the space, but also the duties of the various support staff that are there, to better align with the functions that are there. There's certainly, the town manager does not need 3 secretaries, although it appears that that's what's out there. There is one that does a lot of public health support, and another that does a lot of benefits administration support, so they'll be more clearly defined with the space changes and stuff. So they're not as excited about the whole thing as I am, but it'll be good to get that all in line and get there's file cabinets all, it does not, our office looks a mess, and we're apologizing for that, but there's nothing we can do. We're trying to keep it as, we're minimizing files, we are scanning things if we possibly can, asking permission to destroy files. We have to ask the state to destroy files, and we're doing some of that, but we have enough day-to-day work that we can't really concentrate a whole lot on that. And I'll talk more about that after.
What's the excavation in the front? Is that for a water main for the sprinkler system?
Yes, exactly.
I assumed because it was digging right near the fire hydrant, so obviously they were accessing the water main, but.
Yeah, and I don't know which construction caused the whole thing, but at one point I lost electricity and my computer and everything in my office, and then I went upstairs to the town clerk's office and they were in the dark. So I thought, oh, this is not going to be a good day. And we couldn't pinpoint it because we had all this stuff going on all over the place. But everybody's been great. I have not gotten any complaints, really. People moaned a little about, dusty and all of that, but really, everybody's been great. A reminder that November 16th is the Regional Boards of Selectmen meeting, and you have a copy of that invitation in your packet as well. They must have decided not to include dinner because they didn't mention it again. So I suggest you have something to eat before. It's at the school library in Long Meadow.
Library or high school?
High school.
High school, okay.
Right. I also forgot to add to my report that the new Board of Health was sworn in last week, and they are great. 2 doctors and a nurse. When I saw that requirement in the charter, I really thought, what, are they kidding? How are they going to get a doctor to want to volunteer? These people are not only super qualified, they are so engaged in wanting to do good public health services and want to be really involved. So it's really great. What a great addition to our public works, our public health director. She's amazing, and they're dealing with some difficult issues already. There's somebody that's got issues that needed to be removed from his home for safety reasons, and she had the support of them. Really great stuff.
Good to hear.
Also, I was invited to both the Rotary and the Lions meetings, and I was very careful to tell them I'm just the acting, so don't ask me a lot of questions for like the future, and made some new friends. I am a Rotarian, so it was nice to meet a fellow group, and the Lions do this thing at the end where they roar and stuff.
Yeah, I never saw that before. You were telling me.
I thought, wow, isn't this unique?
I felt the same way, and I'm like looking around, going, what am I supposed to do?
Do I do this too?
Not really a lion, but hey, whatever.
Great group. Both of them are great. On to staffing updates, and I told you guys that I would have less, and I think I have more here. The library director. Second interviews for the library director's position were held on Saturday, this past Saturday. I was part of those interviews and have to say that they had 3 great candidates. They, however, have not yet received confirmation from the top candidate to see if she's willing to accept the position. She has another opportunity that is tonight, and they don't know exactly where she's going to stand. So I really don't want to give her name, but I would like the authorization, if you all feel comfortable with it, to offer the position to their recommended candidate. And if it's their number 1 or number 2, either of them would be great. So they're both strong candidates. Okay, so they're excited to get that filled. Great. Building commissioner, after passing the idea by Councilman Kane and Planner McDonald, I've approached the building official Wendell Hulbert, who works part-time for Hampden, about possibly a contractual arrangement for a few months. He's interested in the proposal, but we need to be sure he meets the requirements of the state building inspections codes. And that is a maze of going to mass.gov and finding the right number for the right person to call. And I've done that, but I've left voicemails. One of them is out till next Monday. The other one, I can't even get to the phone number. It just says call. It's somebody in Milford. I thought it was Springfield. It's been like a treasure hunt. So I am going to call him back about who he would suggest. He had given me the names, but not the phone numbers, and he actually gave me a cell phone number. He is very interested in possibly doing it. It's a good time to have somebody like that that can do part-time, because he's part-time in Hampden, and it's not a busy time for building inspecting. So I'm going to meet with Mike again and Robin and see if it's something that we want to pursue further, but it might be a good alternative. Custodian for the senior center. You have in your packet, with your my report, a copy of a memo where Jason Cabrera is the recommended candidate by the Director of Public Works to fill that position.
No objection,
Where were they gonna be?
It's
It's,
in the packet.
it's in with my report, the printed copy or the electronic copy that I sent you.
I don't have any objection to it.
None here either.
No? Okay. Jean Garreton will be starting as the Assistant Town Clerk on November 21st. She comes to us from Munson. I had hoped that I'd be able to get a hold of her to come tonight to shadow and maybe talk to Tom and I prior to the meeting, but I wasn't able to connect with her. So it would have been nice to meet her ahead of time. So there we are with that one. Public Works, Town Engineer Dan Murphy has resigned. We wish him success in his new position. The community, this is sad news, the Community Services Coordinator. Some of you may have known Janice Michaels, 28-year employee with the town who helped countless East Long Meadow residents. Sadly, Janice passed away a couple of weeks ago. It's certainly a great loss to the community. And I will always recognize those that come and go in whatever capacity. I met with Carolyn today about how we're going to fill that, but she has said, and I've heard from a number of people, she will be very hard to fill. Fire Department, James Goldrick and Eli Yeager recently graduated from the Firefighting Academy's Call Volunteer Recruit Firefighting Training Program. Will complete in-house training by the end of the year and are expected to become probationary call firefighters effective January 1st, 2017. And we have to really acknowledge that anybody that wants to do that, that's a volunteer, has to dedicate so much of their time. There is so much training that they have to do to then want to go and run burning buildings. You know, it's a pretty unique group that does that. Town Manager's Office. The secretary that is the primary support for the Health Department and responsible for most of the town's licensing is expected to be out of the office for a while. Marge LaRocca has been assisting both the town clerk's office until the new assistant starts, the Health Department when possible, and working on the various liquor licenses that are constantly coming up along with her regular duties. So, I've told her to hide her cape for today, but she really is Superwoman. So, with all the liquor licenses in town needing to be updated, they need to be renewed at the end of the year. That in itself is a big project. I had spoken with Kevin about it, and with that, in addition to some short-term assistance that could be used in the Benefits Administration Office, we'll be using a temp for word processing, Excel, and customer service for a month from 9 to 3 to see if we can get some things caught up, some things organized, and assist everybody that needs some assistance right now, sort of a all hands on. I mean, I can do my own letters and stuff, and Marge can certainly fill in a lot of stuff, but we don't want to get so behind that we lose liquor license applications that need to be done, and Marge is learning it from scratch because the person that's out isn't available to train. So that's where we are with that. That's all I have, unless you have questions.
I also noticed in very short order, our tax rate was approved by the Department of Revenue. That's
I
good.
didn't get that official notice, but yeah.
It got emailed out to
sent
all
that
of us.
email out, yeah.
You didn't get it? You weren't on the email chain?
I don't recall that I was. How long ago was it?
This week?
It was within this week.
Yeah.
Maybe the day that my computer just was turned off, or the one that I couldn't hear in my
You
office.
guys had the lights off in Town Hall, so you didn't get it.
It was approved at 2077, which, like I said, is a chunk
Less,
of money
right?
less than we had anticipated last May at the annual town meeting, so it's really good news.
How great is that?
Yeah, we need to keep going that way.
We'll see if we can do that.
No pressure, though.
That's awesome.
It certainly is.
But the quick approval and the quick turnaround speaks to the work that's being done by the
Assessor,
the,
account.
assessor, accountant, and clerk,
and
collector's
town
office, so,
Correct.
yeah.
Absolutely. So that's my report.
Thank you. Item 6 is discussion regarding new charter mandated position.
I am bringing this up again because there are 3 charter mandated positions, Director of Finance, Director of Planning, and the split in town clerk and treasurer collector. I am very sensitive to the fact that you're going to have some transition, possibly within a month. And I'll tell you guys are going to chuckle at this. I thought the HR position was mandated by charter as well. And I must have looked like 4 times through the charter till I finally went to Marge and said, Marge, I cannot find where HR is part of the charter. And she said, no, it was in the budget last year. If I'd known it was a budgeted rather than a charter mandated, we probably could have gotten ourselves together sooner because it's not part of the charter requirements. The job description is set to go on that, and I can certainly advertise it. I held back this last week, even though you had said to do it, only because I got notification of interviews next week, which means if we advertise now, the position applicants are going to fall right when you're doing a transition in people. And I don't know that that's the best way to do that. I can do whatever you say, but if I, as you're aware, I step out of the room, so I don't really know what your deadline is for getting a new person on board. I know that my contract is up December 15th, so to do that now with Thanksgiving really puts it right on the mark of interviews. I and the team that I would put together would be selecting the people. By the time they came in for interviews, it might be a new person. So, sensitive to that timing, I'm handing you the decision as to what you want me to do with that one.
And you're referring, right now, that question is referring only to the
To the
HR
HR.
director or to all the
No,
transitions?
to the HR, because
the
that's a
HR.
new position that is different than the others.
I don't know how everybody else feels. We have a plan in place for hiring a town manager. Even the best laid plans get delayed, conceivably, we could be offering the position to somebody who needs 30 days to wrap it up where they are, or not. I hate to see us just keep delaying.
Me too.
I feel like the charter and the town meeting was a mandate. It was a mandate from the residents, was a mandate from our voters. And for us to ignore that mandate, I don't think, and who knows what the future's gonna hold. I think moving forward, to me, is what makes the most sense.
Certainly, I have had a very effective approach to the hires that I've had, and I've had, I think it's 12 so far. So that's a lot of, and I think Marge can attest to the fact that we have become a fine-oiled machine on how to get it done, how to keep the records, make sure that everything is in the right place, make sure we're getting the best qualified. We check references. And I would, for an HR position, I would probably go to a couple of HR, or at least one, probably 2 HR people outside to be on a panel to do appropriate questions. They're the best ones. They know what they're doing. So.
There's another way to look at this, in that having an HR person at least in place, certainly not established, but in place, helps whoever the new town manager is hit the ground running. So there's another way of looking at it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I concur with Eric, and I've felt like, we put you in this position, we trust your judgment. I'm confident that you'll find the best available candidate. And I agree. I think that that's one less thing whatever the future may bring us, we'll deal with. I know it's a little awkward with timing, but I think if you put the process in motion, there's no harm to it. We're gonna talk, under old business about, I'll give everyone an update of where we are, what the timetables are gonna be, and, to Eric's point, a very valid point is, given where we are in the process, at some point we'll probably have to discuss, there's
Could be 30
0% chance that we will have somebody in place by December 15th.
Okay.
So we'll have to, talk about, what the extension is for you, Denise. But it's,
Okay,
yeah, so I think we've got more time than you think,
so I've got consensus of the board on that one,
Yeah.
the council on that one.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so let's move on to the Director of Finance, which is one of the charter mandated positions. And that, my sensitivity is almost the opposite of what it was for the HR. HR is, something that we don't have yet, and we seem to be handling it, and I'm great with handing it off. I don't know how many times a day I say, so when the HR person comes on board, so that's great. The Director of Finance, we are in the middle right now of going through capital planning. Eric, I have asked Eric and who's the other person? Tom O'Connor, and Ryan Quimby has said that he would help us because he's done a lot of the, I guess, behind the scenes.
He's actually been
Track. I'm convinced that having the Director of Finance on board as we start the budget process and have the new split in town treasurer and tax collector under the finance director, and have that pretty much established rather than flipping that halfway through the budget process, which is, if you wait again for the new person to come on board, you're waiting until around the first of the year when you're already starting the budget process. I would strongly recommend that you have a great person that could do the Director of Finance position. I have looked at her resume, and it is excellent. The auditors have said that we are in great shape, and it's because of who we have there. She has interest. I have a letter of interest that I can send to you all from her in doing that, and I've spoken to her about the impact to the budget of having both a Director of Finance and an accountant, both in this first year when we're making all these changes to the budget. And she is fine with doing both positions in the short term and discussing that as we go through the budget process as to where we head with some of these new positions. So I would recommend that we consider appointing her as the Director, Sarah Menard as the Director of Finance. And then we can start the split of town clerk versus the town treasurer and tax collector responsibilities, so that those departments get under the new charter.
I fully support that. I mean, I've worked with Sarah since she came on board as chairman of the appropriations, and I agree. She's, I think, very well equipped for it. My only issue is that role's going to change that job. If we had any discussion with her in regards to her salary.
I have not yet, because I wanted to approach you all first and see if you were interested. I have salary surveys, and I can maybe bring that to the next meeting if you like, along with just a high level of what the job responsibilities would be. A lot of the job descriptions that I found, the Director of Finance also is in charge of the purchasing, and she felt that was appropriate. I agree, because we don't have, she and I are of like thinking as far as purchasing is concerned. We could do a lot more, a lot smarter in town, and that would be something that she could bring to the table.
So in this situation, when are you looking for a decision from us? Is this going to be a posted position?
Well, that's
Are you-
that's my question to you. Do you want to do the full search for somebody when you have a qualified person that you could bring up from within. HR, you didn't have that option. Some of these others you do.
I feel if we have a well-qualified, proven individual, then, in my opinion, it speaks, there's a lot of nervousness among town employees with the implementation of the charter and what it's gonna mean to them. I think if we demonstrate that we're supporting talent in-house, then that goes a long way at sending a message to those employees. If we don't have somebody, by all means, we have to serve the town right. If we don't have somebody, then we've gotta go outside and look. But
And we
if you
can
have
certainly
somebody-
advertise it and prove
How
that
does it
she's.
hurt us not to advertise it?
I'm
anyway?
sorry?
How would it hurt us to advertise and
It,
post a
it,
position?
it would not, except that it
And
would take
also
longer.
have- Other than the timeframe.
Well, yeah,
Yeah.
that's why I'm curious to the time, and that's why I'm asking, like, what the timeframe is, and, you know, Eric's had the luxury to work with her in the past, I have not. I haven't even, like, really dove into the full job description, and I, you know, so I'd like to see her qualifications and how that matches, and, you know, maybe, we put her on the agenda for the next meeting, and she comes and speaks with us.
An
You know,
executive session or
yeah.
open session? Executive session.
It would be open
They'd
session.
have to be open. I
Yeah,
don't think
the open session, you know, but, yeah, so I guess, so I guess the first question is, I know that it makes total sense, to promote from within, it also makes total sense to do this sooner than later, that's very logical, I get what you're doing, and, you know, if we can truncate the process and it makes sense to all of us, it's fine, I just wasn't prepared to make, you know, decision one way or another on that.
Oh, that's not my purpose,
Yeah,
to
so
bring it
what
to you all
are
as
you
to where we go.
thinking on time frame? Like, if it does need to be, you know, if we do say, okay, you know, obviously she's a highly qualified candidate, but we'd still like to post, you know, would a month be too long? Do you need it, are you looking for a decision sooner than that? I'm just trying to get a sense of timetable.
Well, again, there's the sensitivity to the budget process there. So let's think about our
Well,
next,
Can we plug a number in for the budget regardless of who the employee might be?
yeah,
Because
well,
we're
we
heading
could
in
do
that
that.
direction, correct?
Yeah, we could determine the salary
Right.
certainly. But let's just, okay, so our next meeting is
29th,
it the 29th?
does that sound right?
20.
Tuesday, the 29th?
22nd.
Second.
So the 22nd, if you met with Sarah and then decided that you wanted to post anyway, you post for a month, I would have it's ready to go. I could post now if you want to do that. And let's say we're posting for, today's the 10th. I could post by the 15th, and by December 15th, you'd have other applicants to compare to if you feel that you want to go that route. I just think along the same lines as the first one we talked about, that one is something that because of the budget, we probably need to worry about that timing. Each of these has their own unique thing.
I'm not I don't know Sarah well enough to speak about her qualifications, but certainly I would defer to Eric's comments about her. But I would be most comfortable with trying to maintain a similar approach to any of the positions that we need to hire and put in place, and I would be in favor of a posting.
I agree with you. Not to say that she's not qualified.
No,
I'm
no, I'm not saying that at all. In
qualifications,
fact,
but if we're gonna go with
I'm
the process.
with that
The
caveat
process
that
should always be the
I've heard,
same.
I too have heard nothing but positive things, but I don't know her, I can't speak to her specific resume. I
And I'm
can-
just saying on the
yeah.
process, if we're gonna hire.
I would
we've
like
done
to
all
stay
this
as consistent
open-
as
Mhm.
possible.
It's a good point, you know?
I'm good
The
with that.
process should be the standard no matter who
Is
or
it-
what
Quick
I
question.
don't
Is-
agree with
Is
that.
this
position we're
discretionary
having.
for posting, or is it required? I'm just
It's a
asking.
non-union position, so it wouldn't be
So it's
required.
discretionary.
It's
Discretionary.
Right.
It's
Right.
actually the town manager's discretion. And in fact, hiring her, the only thing you need from the council is approval because you're acting. normally
Correct.
this is not a, this
wouldn't come to us.
doesn't come to the council at all,
Right.
just the approval. So
Right, in a couple of months, it wouldn't be something that. you-
talking about a process is really, the only thing we can really do is request
Yeah.
of it. We can't,
So
You
her
know,
choice
but-
at the end of the day is whether it's posted or not ours. All we can do is suggest.
yeah, pretty much, I mean.
Yeah, but I wouldn't do, these are important transitional positions that I wouldn't do a process without checking with you all to be sure that you're comfortable with where we're headed. I
Yeah.
wouldn't come to you with somebody and say, okay, so here's who I'm recommending without you knowing the process. In most of these, even down to a custodian, I've given you a memo as to the whole thing.
And we
So-
So this
appreciate-
is,
we appreciate that.
you know, this is a high-level position.
Mhm.
I assume this is not an at-will employee, and that this person's gonna be offered some kind of employment contract.
Yes.
So to not go through a process or just
Silly.
look at one candidate who may end up being the most qualified candidate, to me, I don't know, again, you have the luxury of working with her closely, and I very much, you know, respect your opinion. But I don't know, that's the only position to date that we have done that with. I don't know, I guess I need to, I'm definitely not ready to make a decision on that tonight.
Nope,
You know.
that wasn't my suggestion.
So,
I'm not
I mean,
talking
I don't know
about-
what
I'm
the-
not talking about making a process for the town manager. It's what we've done from the beginning. We
Yeah.
gotta set our own
Yeah, yeah.
process, so to just say, okay, well, we have a qualified town employee, let's not do the process that we've been doing, why?
Because for the HR position, for the town manager position, you don't have qualified people in-house. That's the difference.
No, but
So-
it's not just those positions, it's for all the positions, we did 12, right? Where they went through a process, whatever that process was.
But there were no people qualified within the organization.
We actually promote from within routinely, police department, fire department, school
And
department.
there's a process.
You know,
And they still go through an interview process, and they still come in and they sit down and
Right,
be
but we don't-
competitive, and
it's
just
not-
like everything else.
Well, you
but it's
can-
competitive
Teachers.
in-house, it's not competitive, you
Doesn't
don't
look
post
good.
it to the outside.
You can't really compare the fire department, police department to a job because they have to be on the civil service list to be promoted from within.
Fire department's not, but I get your point.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So
I'm
that's-
fine with that.
That caveat's a little bit different. I'm just saying, there's no harm in hiring somebody from within. I think it's good for
As long
morale.
as
I
they're
think
the
it
best
does send a good
qualified.
message.
Right, that's
But I
the-
think if we
The baseline.
post and we go through, that person could be the best qualified anyway. Well, it doesn't hurt us to look and see who puts
Yeah.
in for it.
Certainly.
Yeah, I'd like an idea of what her current job description is and how that job description will change, no matter who the candidate is, because, you know, it's an area that I don't have any experience in right now, and I'd like to look at that a little bit more deeply, so.
Okay. So what if I do this? Because it was gonna be the same conversation for the planner, and the Director of Planning and Community Development. A little bit of concern with that one is that without a building official, the planner currently is doing a lot of supervisory work with the building official's secretary, yet she is not the supervisor. So ultimately, I'm the supervisor. And again, there's somebody that knows planning and development in this community probably better than, you know, anybody else, certainly in the department. But if you want to go with posting for one, I'm sure you want to do posting for the other as well. So I can get job descriptions to the next meeting on both of those, their current and what the director's positions would have, along with their qualifications, their resumes. How's that?
That's good.
Well, if you want me to post them, I suppose then we wait and do whatever once we get candidates
You
in.
talked about the,
Well, I think we had mixed, I think we had some that just wanted to be able to
See the
see
qualifications
the
of the current.
qualifications
Roll
of the
call.
individual you're recommending and maybe speak to the individual, so that was one suggestion, and the other was to post it, so I think it was two.
Qualifications
I don't think you've gotten a
along with
clear.
the job.
Yeah,
Two things happening here, right?
I'll kind of withdraw my request, because that's gonna slow things down. So it's, your normal process would be to create a job description, have an idea of salary, post the position, then come to us with recommendations. We don't need to interfere with anything more than that.
Right.
If she's going to go through that process, then that's all she needs to do. That's all we need to know,
Right.
right? So
Exactly.
let's not
That is the
overcomplicate this.
Yeah, no, it's
That is the
her
process,
She's
right.
just looking for guidance from us, but
Yeah.
at the end of the day.
She owns it.
That position, you're right.
It
That
sounds
position,
like-
and she owns it.
It
You know,
was-
listen, we haven't taken a vote here, but it sounds like the majority of us feel more comfortable doing that. I don't wanna speak for anybody else. So let's just let her do her normal process
Process, right.
then. So you
Okay.
don't slow it down any more than it is, you know?
Okay.
And,
Yeah.
so I'm comfortable with
I'm
that. I
comfortable
would
with that,
prefer to
too.
do that.
Okay.
Job description, salary range, we have something to look at, something to
Right.
digest, and then we can committee it and we'll go from there.
Okay.
I'm good.
No, I'm saying let her.
Pick.
Let
Yeah.
me
Go
post
through the
it
process you
and,
would
They
normally
do.
Just like she has
Yeah,
with any of the
Yeah,
others.
right.
I mean,
Like-
She can send us a
I
copy
would
of
like
it.
that
but we-
for information, the job description
Yeah,
and
if
how
you can
that
send us a
was-
copy of it, but we
Just for
don't need to
informational
approve it.
well, it'll be
Mhm.
posted online
Yeah.
anyway.
Right,
So,
perfect.
Yeah. Okay.
And how the
Yeah,
job
that's-
description will
right.
change from its current capacity.
Same as if we hired a
The
janitor
current
or
job
custodian or
description.
whatever,
Correct. Just
right?
stay
I
with
mean,
the
it's just
process.
Stay with that whole process,
Seems
same as
like
if we
we-
hired a
Yeah.
custodian.
I get it.
Or
And I thank you
DPW
for the
guy, or
guidance.
Whatever.
Yeah.
So the only one in that transition section of the charter remaining is,
Is the town clerk, the split with town clerk
Yes.
and town treasurer collector.
And what's your thought on it? I know you wanna split it, put one on
Well-
the collector treasurer piece on the
Isn't it
director of
in the
finance,
charter?
right?
Except that if you don't have a director of finance,
Right.
it's not the time to split it.
Well, that's, I know, you can't
Right.
split it until you make the.
That was the
final
point I was
decision
gonna
on that.
make, that one's
Yeah.
gotta be done, I think, before you can do the other.
Right,
Yeah.
so it kind of is all one big ball of yarn
Right.
that you got, make sure you got all the pieces knit together.
As it relates to the budget, however, one of the things that the charter does allow for is later development of the budget. So I don't think the timelines are quite as tight as you
They,
believe they are.
oh no, I know that they're not quite as tight, but as
Right.
the first time, whether it's me or somebody else managing a budget that they have not seen or not familiar with, it's gonna take a little extra time.
Okay.
You know,
Yeah.
that's my concern. I'd rather have it done early and ready to go early than take for granted that, well, we don't need to get it done until.
But that I mean, I know there's a lot of work you can do in that area, but yet the council hasn't even had its discussion in terms of the global, where we want the budget to go.
Well, that's the beginning of the whole process.
Right, and that doesn't happen till later in the year. We used to start the budget process,
In
well, actually,
January, right?
it's kind of now,
Yeah.
in the directive will go out beginning of December to the department heads. That's way early. Sometimes you had no idea what the state funding was looking
Right.
like. And it was a shot in the dark, and we moved everything forward. So
with that in
the picture
mind.
becomes so much more clear.
Oh, that's cool.
The picture's much more clear February, March,
What you need.
and into April than it is in December, you know what I mean? So,
Okay, so back to my thinking, just so you understand. Let's say you start the process in February. If you're just getting a director of finance, a town manager, and a split where the treasurer and, all of that is going in January, now you're just getting people that don't have any history, don't know what they're doing in January. In February, they're putting a budget together. That's kind of where my concern was.
understood, except that
But
the
I
same
get it.
players that have putting it together now will still be here.
Right.
So we're not losing, if you hire somebody and don't promote from within, we're still not losing any existing talent.
Possibly.
Well, hopefully, but yeah,
Possibly, yeah.
right, possibly, yeah.
That's fine. I get it, and I'm good with that. That was more my question is, how do you want me to do this process for those that are charter mandated, knowing that we do have qualified people from within, but certainly proving that they're the top is great, and maybe they're not. Maybe there is somebody that can do it better,
And maybe they are.
and maybe they.
They could very well be. Right?
Yep, I'm good with that. Thank you. Thank you for that guidance.
So we have to act on the minutes in motions of October 25th, 2016, open session.
Motion to accept the minutes as submitted.
Second.
Moving second, any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Communications, correspondence, and announcements. So we have the public hearing for the change of manager at the Gunther Rally, post 293.
That's
We're gonna do that on-
for information,
Informational.
right, the next meeting.
We'll do that on the 22nd, at the meeting, the 22nd, at 6:30.
So can you just familiarize me with why we're doing this? Is this because we're the licensing authority?
Yes.
That we have to approve managers that the alcohol license sits
Yeah.
with? I
And if
they're
they're
but I
under
wasn't
the
100%
License,
sure
they
why we were
switch,
doing this.
then we have to do.
We
public
have to do
hearing.
it, okay.
Switch. Old business, town manager screening committee update.
Yes.
Joe?
So we've met, recently.
Oh, sorry, Denise, Denise is leaving, sorry.
So we've met recently with the committee and Mary from the Collins Center, and narrow our search down to a number of candidates, and we're scheduling interviews for the 14th and 16th, right? 14th and 16th, we've confirmed those dates, and I believe they've been posted to the
Yeah,
public.
been posted.
Okay, yeah. When, on the 16th, we have saved time at the end to collaborate as a group, and the search committee will make a recommendation on X number of people that we'll see as the, full board. So looking at dates, Mary suggested an off-cycle meeting. So if our next meeting is on the 22nd, she will not have the background checks done. She was thinking or I may have inappropriately told her the 29th was our next meeting. So I'll have to confer with her, but I think she was fairly comfortable believing that the background and screening checks would come back by the 29th at the latest. We may be done earlier than that, in which case we'll be ready to make the names public that will make the final interviews. And then she suggested that we schedule an off-cycle meeting.
Would
For
this
the
the only
purpose of
For
agenda?
us,
interviewing.
for the purpose of interview
Well, this is
only.
the only agenda
It will be
item,
open, yeah, it will be open session,
Yeah.
but not to add it to a full meeting like tonight. If we were to try to do a certain number of interviews, that would just be too much, too late. So any suggestions on dates?
Go with the 29th?
Yeah, can you do?
The only, we could, and I'll ask her
Or
to
the 6th,
confirm.
Right, which is the following week?
Well, the 6th would be a
Yeah,
full,
that's a
full
full
meeting.
Right.
Well,
So-
we don't have a meeting on the 6th.
We will.
We have to
would.
meet the second Tuesday of the month, with this is the 13th.
Right.
So we're probably not gonna meet back-to-back weeks.
So
It's
we
one of
do a
those,
meeting the
one of those
29th.
months that because of the way the second Tuesday works out, there's 3 weeks in between the meetings instead of 2.
Right.
So do you
During
want,
the 6th then.
you want the 6th?
Because either way, we're doing back-to-back, 22nd and 29th, or 6th and 13th.
Right.
So we just
What
pick
the-
up
it is
which
what it
day you
is,
want.
yeah, we knew
Right,
that's
right,
what.
okay.
Right.
Should it
Gonna
be
happen
a
at some
question
point.
of the candidate's availability, which works out better for them? Because either one of those dates are fine with me, whether it's the 29th or the 6th.
Neither one of them, I don't have an issue with either
Yeah.
one of those.
Yeah. The only, she's not gonna put them before us until the background screenings
Done.
are done.
Mhm.
So maybe we're safer to do it on the 6th?
Well, here's
Yeah.
what I'm thinking, it depends on how many you folks wanna move forward. If you only move forward 3 candidates, I can see us doing that in one night.
If
I
you
don't
move
see us
more than
being
that.
able to process more than that in one
Right,
night.
and have
If
some
you move 5
deliberation
candidates
time.
forward, we need 2 nights to do it.
Yeah, I agree. I can't predict that yet.
Right,
You know, we'll
so
let the search
I guess
committee.
what I'm saying is right now, why don't we block out both those 2 weeks?
That's fine.
Right, based on the background checks being completed.
We can cancel one meeting if
Right.
if
If
it's
need
not
be.
needed.
Yeah,
Mhm.
okay, no, that's, actually, that's a great idea, Eric. So I will confer with her, then Tom, I'll check with you, and we'll get the dates posted once we know. Yeah, so we're getting there.
All right.
We're inching along, step by step. That's it.
Let's see.
Somebody want to get Denise?
You know, the only other question I throw out there, and you folks tell me, I mean, my calendar's open on those days, but can we start it earlier?
That was my thought, start at 5, especially if we have 3.
Right.
That's fine with me.
It's the only,
Because you
the
wanna
only
have some
agenda
time at
item.
the
It's
end
not
to deliberate.
dependent upon,
Yeah, I think we know if we know in advance, there's certainly, we can absolutely do that.
I would think we'd be spending approximately 45 minutes to an hour. So there's
we'll
3, and if
schedule
we
an
need
hour.
another hour in the backside, right, then that's a
Yeah.
4-hour window, so.
I think we'd probably schedule an hour and 15. Just
Yeah.
her suggestion.
yeah.
Probably go about an hour. We have a little buffer, you decompress, start the next one.
Yeah.
You know, and then we would probably want to spend time to collaborate afterwards. And I'm not sure if that has to be, that might be an executive session.
Yeah, we'll have to get some clarification on that,
Yeah.
because I don't know if which
We-
way we have to do it.
Yeah, but we can
Can
figure
ask
that
Jim?
out. We don't need an answer on that now.
No, we don't
honestly.
need to discuss.
I think we're good. Okay, thank you. I got the mandate. I appreciate the feedback. I'll connect with Mary. I'll confirm that, and then Tom, I'll get you an email back, and then we can post it, so we know well in advance. We may end up posting both of them until further notice, and if we have to cancel one, we cancel one.
Better have both
Okay.
of them.
Thank you, guys.
Springfield Regional Chamber of Commerce Government, Annual Government Reception, Thursday, November 17th, 5 to 7. We responded to that.
Yeah, I think, I still, myself, and I thought there was some other folks
I was
interested.
gonna go to that too.
So who's going to the 16th one? I mean, I'm available either one of these things.
I think everybody replied yes, they
Yes,
were going to
okay.
the
Yes.
16th.
16.
Yeah, that's the one in Long.
Except for you?
Long
You
Meadow
didn't?
Long Meadow
High School.
Yes.
Yeah,
I
Yeah,
thought you said you were.
and then,
We have a screening committee meeting that night.
Oh, that's right.
yeah, that's why that date stuck in my head.
That's right, I might.
Pretty sure you do too.
I answered to the
Joe,
17th.
what's your
Did
screening
you,
committee
did
date?
you have to RSVP that on our
16.
behalf? or
That was
it-
an informal RSVP.
It was, okay.
I told them the majority, at that point, I hadn't gotten Joe's response, and I think I hadn't gotten Michael's response, but I have. Yeah, it's not for, this is for, not for the Springfield one, for the 16th, I had to respond.
And the 17th is in West Springfield?
Yeah,
I-
over at the Storeton,
Storeton.
Or the,
Right.
Eastern
the
State.
carriage house.
Okay.
New business, Tom, election update.
Yeah. I'll take that one. Yeah, just want to give you an update on what happened. There was, the early voting was a big hit. And I think just not in East Long Meadow, but I think in
Statewide.
a lot of the surrounding towns, which was good. Again, the whole purpose was to get as many people out as possible, and I think they did that. Just the numbers, 3,720 people voted early, or 32%. And that just, when I talked to the elections division, give me an estimate, and they said maybe 10 to 15%. So that's historically in other states, first time people early vote. So obviously, the interest, Long Meadow was 33%, so it was, it was a big hit. With the 700 absentee ballots at 6%, we had 38%, or 4,400 people vote before November 8th happened. And on November 8th, on Tuesday, 41%, or 4,900 people came through Bertram Park Middle School. So it was close to an even split. So that helped a lot of the traffic flow. I heard virtually no complaints about that, which is good. And I did take the police, no parking per East Long Meadow police signs, and put them on the residential side of Handward Hill. And put a little bit on Elmcrest too, just to make sure nobody parked in Elmcrest also. So that seemed to go pretty well. And it is the largest number we've ever had an election in East Long Meadow.
Oh, wow.
The percentages have been higher, but the population was a little bit smaller. So the last biggest was 8,750 we had in 2012, so we had 600 more people come out this year. So again, the Secretary of State's office want to get as many people out as possible, and I think, they meet their objective in doing that. And, the race itself and everything people have read, and, I think it just drew a lot of social interest as well.
How did it work with there was maybe a little glitch at one time with the feeder for the early ballots? How did that get resolved?
Yeah, it took care of itself, and that was, I was just gonna get to that,
Don't want to jump in.
oh no, it was a workout for the machines, and very, very lucky. I mean, those machines work great all day. However, when you put in 4,400 trifold ballots, it's gonna take a while. Some of them kicked out. You had to press down the fold crease. And when you put them in, you can only put a certain number in before you have to have the police officer there to empty the back of the ballot box to take them out so they don't get jammed. So it was a constant, going back and forth to the 4 machines just to make sure everything, stayed in accordance. And we avoided the major jam, which was my big concern with that many ballots being fed in. Because it was a 8.5 by 17 ballot. It was a longer ballot because of questions. So usually either bifold, this was trifold, so, we got through.
I want to, thank you and all your volunteers. I think you guys did a tremendous job.
Yeah.
I know that was a lot of extra work that was put on you with early voting. Things seem to go extremely smoothly at the high school.
Yeah.
So great,
appreciate
great
that.
job from you and your
Thank you. I had
staff.
a lot of positive feedback from the voters themselves, really liking the early voting, about, they can come out whenever they want, they have 2 weeks to, again, your mind has to be made up, and for the most part, people are gonna vote early, have their mind made up, but they really like coming out and doing it on their own time. And, next time, again, we'll know a little bit better how to plan for election day stuff, to feed them through the ballots. Might, have to have a couple additional people, just to make sure we stay right on track and get done by 8 o'clock.
It was good though.
And, next year, there's only 2 elections, that's the good news. There's a preliminary in May for the annual town election, if necessary, and then the town election itself, in the beginning of June, so.
You're not gonna be as busy as what you're saying.
Yeah,
You're happy about that,
you
Tom?
bet.
Been a
you
busy
bet.
year.
Marge is happy.
Yeah. She'll never get away from it.
Oh, yes, she will.
Yeah, right.
She did get away.
We had a request from St. Paul the Apostle Church for a one-day beer-only license, 4 to 10 p.m. Sunday, November 20th, 2016. They have their insurance on file. So entertain a motion to approve one-day beer license for St. Paul the Apostle Church for 4 to 10 p.m. on Sunday, November 20th.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
One-day beer and wine license for Continuum Performance Center. I think that their event is actually tomorrow. They also have their insurance on file. They're doing a customer appreciation event. So we're looking for I'll entertain a motion to approve a one-day beer and wine license for Continuum Performance Center for tomorrow. Tom, do you know what the time is on that? Tom, do you know what the time is on that one? I might have it here.
Yeah, for the performance.
Continuum Performance, yeah.
Yeah, 6:30 to 9 p.m.
6:30 to 9 p.m. So entertain a motion to approve the one-day beer and wine license for Continuum Performance Center for November 11th, 6:30 to 9 p.m.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
That's good. Next, zoning bylaw amendment, forward to planning board for public hearing.
I'm not sure when it's appropriate to bring this up on that, but I had some concerns when I read it over. What was represented was that they were gonna make recommendations on changes to bring us in line with the charter, and that all makes sense. But what's being proposed here is moving some things from the executive branch to the planning board. And I'm not sure we want to do that, or I'm not saying we don't want to. I need to look at the ramifications of doing that. I need to understand the ramifications of that before doing that.
Go ahead, Ralph, because I know you have some input on this.
Good evening. Ralph Page, Chairman of East Long Meadow Planning Board. Basically, what we're asking here is, this is just a general outline for you, to refer it back to us so that the planning board itself can actually go through this, make changes, have a public hearing, come up with a final plan that we then submit to you and then you have a public hearing on it.
This is what we talked about last time, it has to bounce
Exactly.
back and forth between both of us, right?
I get the
And-
process.
And at that point, I mean, we're not saying that this that was submitted to you is 100% accurate, because it's not. It gives you a general idea of what we're trying to do. And that's what we're asking, is that you send it to us so that we can actually go through top to bottom the zoning, change what needs to be, and then submit it to you so that you guys can have your public hearing, look at it, and that's when you get to pick it apart, adjust it, make changes.
But Ralph, I have a question. So
Sure.
if we approve this,
You're not approving this.
okay.
What you're
so-
doing is recommending that it goes to the planning board for us to go through it. It would be like if a citizen off of the street comes in with a petition, that's not the final draft that used to go to town meeting. That came in front of the planning board. The planning board discussed it with the applicant, what works, what doesn't work, how can we adjust it to make this fit properly? And then the final draft went to town meeting.
So am I reading too much into the fact that some of this language is
Absolutely.
written, stricken out?
Because I agree with you.
So so I guess what is the purpose of striking out that?
This is a rough draft that came through our director that hasn't come to us yet. So what we're basically
I can chime
doing
in
is,
just from my little history, if you don't mind, as well.
please.
It's, remember, the building department was under the purview of the Board of Selectmen.
Right.
Okay.
So that is why a number of things went to that board, and that's why this, I haven't, like I said, I haven't had the opportunity to chime in. So this obviously will need some tweaking, but I think historically where it said selectmen, that was really because they were the boss of the building commissioners.
That's right.
And now the town manager
Oh, okay.
is
Exactly.
the boss of
Right.
both the planning board.
And then we also have to write the whole new department for
Director of
planning
Planning
and
Development.
development. yeah.
Right.
So that's why I said this will need some tweaking, but the default with selectmen was because that was the building department before.
So
I mean, if you took a look right now, let's say section 5.11, it's the start of the third paragraph. A plan of development shall be submitted to the selectmen. It was never submitted to the selectmen. A
Yeah,
plan
went
of
to the planning
development
board.
always came to the planning board.
Right.
So yes, that was written in there.
That's not how it was.
It
No,
it
but
never
the
happened.
Board of Selectmen did see the plans and gave their comments and everything.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But it was always after you looked at it, and it was in compliance with
With the
the
zoning.
zoning.
Then the
Anyway.
building commissioner looked at it, who
Right.
is under the
So will
selectmen.
the town manager see it before, or,
The plan of development?
yeah, so.
They'll probably,
Where's the-
they'll probably say planning board or whatever, but I don't think it's gonna go to the.
Well,
Yeah.
we could leave it this way, that, I mean, I don't mind moving it forward so that we can go to the next step. But I guess my concern, and I suspect it would be the concern of everyone here, is that we don't want to eliminate the executive branch, who's responsible for the long-term and plans of the community, to be left out of the loop. So I think that was my big concern
Yep.
when I saw this. If this isn't what's being proposed at this point, then I'm okay moving it to the next point.
Have your hearing.
Yeah.
Have fun.
Well, see, that's how I viewed it, that they were gonna take it and then hold a public hearing, and
That changed.
there needs to be,
Change.
to me, it makes more sense if you submit to us the changes that you wanna make, we forward it, you have your hearing, then we have our hearing, and then move on that way, but.
Well, the whole thing is,
Hang on one second, Jim.
If I might, under the charter, the way it's been established, the planning board is advisory to the manager.
Correct.
The real proper process, I think, for this would have been for the planning board to review it and then submit their recommendations to the manager for the manager's consideration, and have the manager determine whether or not there were changes that needed to be forwarded to the council for zoning review. And at that point, you would then refer it back to the planning board for its public hearing, its comment, and then its response back to the council for your decision. So I mean, what you're doing is okay, But you have to remember that the planning board in this function is an advisory capacity now. They're not an elected capacity with independent responsibility. They're advising the manager or the acting manager at present. So I think those lines should be kept clear and not muddied by sort of flowing over one to the other, and keep the process clear as to how the citizens have determined they want the structure and the power of government to be delineated. So I just throw that out for consideration in this process.
So your recommendation for this particular issue would be what, Jim?
Well,
That it goes to the
it's
town
been
manager.
submitted. I think there was a process I would have suggested otherwise than the way it's done, but it's been submitted by the planning board for consideration. They have the authority under the general laws to request zoning changes, which this is a change. So once it's been referred to the council, now the process is for you to refer it back to the planning board to hold their public hearing, and then they make a recommendation within 20 days after the close of their public hearing to the council for consideration, and then the council can do what they want with it.
But in the future, it should be,
In the future, I think that the
They have-
requested zone changes should come from the planning board.
To the
To
town.
the
But
manager.
they had submitted it to me,
They had,
and I forwarded it to you all, right? Wasn't that the
Yes.
process? Yeah.
That was originally what
Right.
we did. 2 weeks ago,
Right.
we were in here,
Yeah.
We
and
talked
we were
about
told that the planning board should submit to the council any
Yeah.
zoning change. And so that's what we did. We started the process all over again. I brought it, I had it time-stamped, I made sure that we
Was
weren't
the
too
10
far
days
out,
and-
because I didn't want you to have to hold a special meeting or anything.
and we apologize for,
No.
in the startup, we're learning as we go.
I think
here.
we're all
I
trying to
think what
learn the
Jim
process.
said makes sense, and that we need to make sure that that process gets followed, not just with the planning board, but with all the boards. In this case, you kind of did both, so I don't see any harm in moving
I
this,
can send it back to.
moving this forward, right? But in the future, we need to make sure that we follow, we need to establish and follow the process,
I was gonna say
because it,
that's, yeah.
the ramifications of doing things mixed up could be, yeah.
Do we need to create a motion to vote? Or we just refer it back?
We just refer it back, I would think, you know.
Well, I'd move that we refer this back to the planning board for appropriate revision in public hearings with a final document and recommendations to come to us at a later date.
A second.
Moved and seconded, any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ralph.
Thanks.
So now we are going to go into executive session to discuss employee matters. Jim, what's the language on it? To go into, make a motion to go into executive session for employee disciplinary matters?
I move that we move to executive session to discuss.
Go ahead.
I move that we move to executive session to discuss employee disciplinary matters, only to return to open session for the purpose of adjournment.
Thank you.
Second.
Moved and seconded,
Aye.
Don Anderson,
Yes.
Ed Madison.
Yes.
Kevin Manley, yes. Joe
Yes.
Ford, Kathy Hill,
Yes.
Mike King, Los
Yes.
Angeles. Thank you very much.
Jim,
So
do
we're
they
gonna
have to
move
say
into
who's
executive
included
session.
in the executive